Hey guys, and welcome back to Z3 Cubing. Today I'm going to take a Rubik's Cube, put it inside of a bottle, and then attempt to solve it. Now the idea of putting a Rubik's Cube in a bottle is nothing new. I first saw it done by Red KB way back in 2014, and about a month later, Tony Fisher actually put a Petaminx in a bottle, which is just insane. Now of course, the idea of this challenge is that you have to choose a bottle that's physically big enough to fit the Rubik's Cube inside, but that has a mouth that's small enough that you can't fit it through all at once. That way, you actually have to take apart the Rubik's Cube and fit it through the mouth of the bottle just a couple pieces at a time. Then once it's fully reassembled on the inside, you'll no longer be able to get it back out again. It's pretty much just like the classic ship in a bottle. You have an object that looks like it's impossible to get inside until you break it up into pieces, stick it through, and then reassemble it on the inside. Now I've been wanting to do this with the Rubik's Cube for a very long time. I remember almost buying a cube-shaped jar many years ago, but I just never really got around to it. That was until I came across this thing. Long story short, I ran a 100-mile race while solving a 4x4, 1 turn per mile. It's about as crazy as it sounds. Be sure and check out that video if you haven't already. But the important part is that they gave these to all the runners, and so I now own a suitable bottle / cup / jar thing. As you can see, a Rubik's Cube does not fit inside at all. However, with some careful disassembly and reassembly on the inside, I think you can see that it should definitely fit inside of there. It's just the perfect size, really. Now my ultimate goal, if this goes successfully with the 3x3, is that I would really like to fit this 4x4 inside, because it's the very one that I solved during this race. Now of course, a 4x4 is a little bit bigger than a 3x3, and I have my doubts about whether it's actually going to be able to fit inside of here, but for the time being, let's go ahead and get started by figuring out how in the world we're going to get this 3x3 inside. This is the new GAN 12 Leap right here, which has a lot of magnets inside. Hopefully that'll make our lives a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and start experimenting with how far we have to take this thing apart in order to fit it inside. I have a feeling we're gonna have to take apart at least one layer, like I'm doing right here, and let's see how that fits. Oh man, that is like as close as you can possibly get to fitting in there without actually fitting. So I guess we're gonna have to take off one more layer here. Okay, now let's try this out. With only about a quarter of the cube put together, it looks like we are basically fitting in there if we just kind of squish it. Yep, it looks like it goes right in. And now it looks like if we just go ahead and grab, say, an edge piece that goes right there, we should just be able to stick it right on there. Yeah, it looks like that works. Now I'm going to be honest, besides the very basic concept of take it apart and then put it back together, I have no idea how people actually make these things. I could be doing it all wrong in totally the wrong order, but it seems like what I've been doing so far is going to work, so I'm just going to roll with it. Also, by relative standards, the mouth of this bottle that I'm using is absolutely massive. Other people have made these things, putting Rubik's Cubes through a mouth of a bottle that's like this big, like barely big enough to fit a single piece through it. I think even the core of this cube would be too big to fit in a bottle like that. But you know what, this is my first time, so I'm happy doing the easy version where I can just stick my whole hand down in there. Of course, with a smaller mouth, you'd have to use all sorts of crazy little tools. It would be very intricate, it would be very difficult. But anyway, it looks like we're already onto the last layer here, so this is going by faster than I thought it would. I'm starting to get a little bit more hopeful that the 4x4 just might be possible, although it would be very difficult, so we'll have to wait and see. And who knows, maybe we'll even be able to solve this cube while it's inside of the bottle. That would be a fun challenge. Ooh, you know what? After putting in just those next few pieces, I'm taking back everything that I just said because this cube is now tight. Those corners just up against the glass, it does not want to fit in there, but I think we might have a chance of getting these last few pieces in. I don't really know. Yeah, I've gone from optimistic to completely doubting myself over the course of about 30 seconds. This thing is tight. But let's see if we can at least get this last corner in here. There we go. And it looks like there might just be enough room for that last edge. Yeah, depending on how this cube is rotated in here, I think it'll actually fit a little bit better than I thought. So let's see if we can manage to rotate this layer by 45 degrees. Yep, there we go. And let's see if we can get this edge in there. I think that might snap in there if we really push it in, but it just does not want to go. I think the problem is that these two corners have to spread out a little bit in order for that torpedo to fit underneath them, but these corners just have no room to move. So I think we're gonna have to move on to plan B, which is taking off one of these center caps. Okay, now what we have to do is remove or at least significantly loosen the centerpiece, which on GAN cubes is actually pretty easy because we can just turn this little blue part 90 degrees and that will pop that whole adjustment mechanism out of there. And okay, that has a lot more parts than I was expecting, but it looks like this centerpiece is now completely loose and can just pop out of there. And now hopefully it should be a lot easier to get this edge in. So let's just try and go in from the top and snap it on in there. Okay, that was easier than I was expecting. And now we just have to stick this centerpiece back in just like that, and then figure out how GAN's adjustment mechanism works to stick that back in as well. And there we go. That's probably on some sort of ridiculous setting, but I don't really care. Let's stick the center cap back on there. And there we go. Here's our fully assembled Rubik's Cube in a bottle / glass thing. At a glance, it looks like I just set a Rubik's Cube in a cup, but upon further inspection, you can see that there is no way this cube is getting out of there. In fact, it can barely move around in the cup at all. Unfortunately, looking at just how tight this 3x3 is inside of here, there is absolutely no way we're gonna fit a 4x4 without, say, removing the corners, which kind of defeats the purpose. But instead of ending this video on a low note, I think there's something that just might be possible with this Rubik's Cube in this bottle, and that is solving the cube. Obviously, in this axis, the layers turn just fine. On this axis, you can turn the M layers, but the real crux is whether we're able to turn a single layer on these two axes. That'll decide whether this is possible. It seems very, very tight, and I'm not sure if it's gonna go, but if we really push it, yeah, it looks like we can just turn one layer there. Well, in reality, we actually turned these two layers because it was easier to grip it that way, but that in effect turned just this one layer. So it looks like every single layer on this cube will in fact be turnable. If we want to turn this one right here, we just have to do this. Ugh, that's tight, but yeah, it works. So let's continue to scramble this thing up, and then we can go ahead and try out a full solve. This is going to take a little bit. Okay, I have successfully scrambled up the cube, so let's go ahead and try and solve it. So let's do some inspection here. Looks like we got our white center and a bunch of cross pieces all around. I think I can get that blue one in pretty easily, and also the orange one right there first, and that'll actually set up the rest of the cross edges really nicely. So 3, 2, 1, and go. The first hard part is turning this layer right here, but there we go. Okay, so it looks like it is actually possible to turn a single layer at a time rather than doing the two double layers next to it. So that'll make things a little bit easier. And there we go. We now have to do a double turn, and we got our cross. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to do a cube rotation. So it looks like we're working with cross on top for the time being, unless we do a double layer turn and a single layer turn next to each other. I guess we have to do that. Okay, almost done with our first F2L pair right here. This is actually not quite as terrible as I thought it might be, although these single turns are very, very difficult to do. There we go. Okay, to finish off this second F2L pair, we have to do a D move, which presents an interesting challenge. We kind of just have to keep turning this top layer until it decides to turn with it. Oh, there we go. Oh, here we go. There we go. There's our second one. Okay, there is our third F2L pair. On to the final one over here. All right, and here we go. F2L is complete. That wasn't actually too bad. Looks like we got a cross case. Yep, this OLL isn't too bad either. Okay, with this OLL almost done, I will say that my fingers on my right hand were really starting to hurt, which is why I switched over to my left hand, and now my fingers on my left hand are also starting to hurt. I guess it's just a really awkward movement that we're doing. Anyway, it looks like our PLL is a V-perm, so that's gonna be really annoying. Man, out of all the terrible PLLs you can get when doing a challenge where the movement is super awkward like this, the V-perm has got to be one of the worst, if not maybe the G-perm. But there we go. The cube is now solved. I can't believe I didn't mess up that last algorithm. I had to do it over and over again in my head to figure out what the next move was. But yeah, I can honestly say that just doing that solve there hurt my fingers more than solving an entire 21 by 21 Rubik's Cube. It wasn't quite as tiring, but your fingers are just not designed to operate like this. Yeah, even though I'm kind of surprised how fast I solved it, I'm still very glad that I never have to do it again. Anyway, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this fun little video about putting this Rubik's Cube inside of this bottle / glass thing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the 4x4 inside that I solved during this race, but as a consolation prize, we were at least able to solve a Rubik's Cube inside of a bottle, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, I really hope you all enjoyed, and let me know if you want to see any more videos like this in the future. Maybe we can finally get that 4x4 in something, and I'll see you guys next time.